The screen flickered to life in every home, every ship, and every station across human space. Nobody asked for it. Nobody wanted it. But the Velthari made sure everyone would watch. Commander Tejo stood in the control room of Earth Defense Station Omega. He was a tall man, with tired eyes and gray hair at his temples. 20 years of military service had taught him to stay calm in any situation. But what he saw on the screen made his hands shake. Colony Hayun 7 appeared on the broadcast. It was a beautiful world. Green forests covered the mountains. Blue oceans sparkled under twin suns. 10 million humans called it home. They had built cities there. They had raised families. Children played in parks while their parents worked in factories and farms. The Velthari fleet surrounded the planet like wolves around a wounded deer. "This is High Commander Volrath of the Velthari Empire," a voice announced. The alien appeared on screen. He had gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. "Today, the galaxy will learn what happens to species that refuse to serve us." Tejo grabbed the communication panel. "Get me Admiral Command. Now." "Sir, all channels are blocked." His officer Sora reported. Her face was pale. "The Velthari are jamming everything. We can only receive, not send." "They planned this," Tejo whispered. "They want us to watch." On the screen, Velthari ships descended toward the colony. The humans below looked up at the sky. Some ran. Some screamed. Most just stood there, unable to believe what was happening. Tejo's personal communicator buzzed. A message had somehow gotten through before the jamming started. It was from his sister Yuna. She lived on Hayun 7 with her husband and 2 children. "Tejo," her voice said in the recording. "Something is happening. Ships are everywhere. I'm scared. Tell Mom and Dad I love them. Tell them." The message cut off. Tejo felt his heart stop. He looked at the screen. The Velthari were landing troops now. Thousands of soldiers in black armor marched through the streets of the capital city. They carried weapons that glowed with blue energy. "Citizens of the galaxy," Volrath continued. "Humans think they are special. They think they can refuse our demands. They think they can say no to the Velthari Empire." He laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Today, we show them the price of pride." The killing began. Velthari soldiers fired into crowds of civilians. Men fell. Women fell. Children fell. The streets turned red with blood. Buildings burned. Ships bombed entire neighborhoods from above. The screams were so loud that Tejo could hear them through the broadcast. "Turn it off," Sora begged. Tears ran down her face. "Please, Commander. Turn it off." "We cannot," Tejo said. His voice was empty. "They are forcing the signal through every system. Everyone must watch." That is their message. Across human space, billions of people saw the same horror. Families held each other and cried. Soldiers broke their weapons in anger. Leaders sat in shock, unable to speak or move. The massacre lasted for 6 hours. The Velthari were not quick about it. They wanted the galaxy to see everything. They hunted humans through forests and mountains. They dragged people from their homes. They lined them up and shot them one by one. Some Velthari soldiers laughed while they killed. Others took pictures to send to their families back home. Tejo watched it all. He searched every frame for his sister's face. He hoped she had escaped somehow. He hoped she was hiding. He hoped the children were safe. Then the camera showed a group of prisoners. They stood in the main square of the capital. Velthari guards surrounded them. Among the prisoners was a woman with long black hair. She held 2 small children close to her body. A man stood next to her, trying to shield them with his arms. It was Yuna. It was her husband Mingho. It was their children, little Jiwoo and baby Sohee. "No," Tejo said. "No, no, no." Volrath walked among the prisoners. He stopped in front of Yuna's family. He looked at the children and smiled. "These small ones," he said to the camera. "Humans love their young so much. They are weak because of this love. Watch now. And understand. Tejo screamed. He hit the screen with his fists. He begged for it to stop. But the broadcast continued. The galaxy continued to watch. And when it was over, Yuna and her family were gone. 10 million humans died that day. The Velthari killed every single person on Hayun 7. When the planet was empty, they burned the cities to ash. They poisoned the oceans. They left nothing but death and destruction. Volrath made his final announcement. Let this be a lesson. The Velthari Empire does not make empty threats. Any species that defies us will suffer the same fate. Humanity has 1 week to surrender completely, or we will visit another colony. The broadcast ended. Silence fell across human space. It was not the silence of defeat. It was not the silence of fear. It was something else entirely. Something darker. Something older. Tejo stood alone in the control room. His officers had left. Some went to cry. Some went to pray. Some went to hold their families. But Tejo could not move. He stared at the blank screen where his sister's face had been. His communicator buzzed again. This time it was a direct line from Earth, the highest security clearance. The message was short. Commander Tejo, report to Earth Command immediately. Project Hate is now active. Tejo did not know what Project Hate was. He had heard rumors over the years, whispers about secret weapons, stories about hidden fleets. Most people thought they were just stories to make humans feel safe, but as Tejo walked to his shuttle, he saw something in the eyes of every person he passed. The tears were drying, the shock was fading, something else was taking its place. It was not fear. It was not sadness. It was cold, burning anger. The Velthari had made a terrible mistake. They thought killing 10 million humans would break humanity's spirit. They thought the broadcast would make humans surrender in terror. They thought showing the galaxy their cruelty would prove their strength. They were wrong. On Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the mountains, Admiral Minji watched the same broadcast. She was an old woman with white hair and steel in her eyes. She had served humanity for 50 years. She had seen wars come and go. She had buried friends and enemies alike, but she had never felt rage like this. When the broadcast ended, she picked up her phone and made one call. Wake them all up, she said. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have hidden. The Velthari want to see what humanity can do. She paused. Show them everything. Across the solar system, lights began to turn on in places that had been dark for centuries. Doors opened in hidden bases. Engines started in secret shipyards. Humanity's true power was waking up, and the galaxy would never be the same again. 3 days passed after the massacre. The galaxy expected humanity to respond. They expected angry messages. They expected threats. They expected humans to cry and beg for help from other species. Instead, there was only silence. The Velthari High Council met in their great hall. Volrath stood before the other commanders. His chest swelled with pride. He had just killed 10 million humans on live broadcast. He expected praise from his leaders. The humans have said nothing, one council member noted. Not a single transmission. Not a single ship movement. Is this their surrender? They are afraid, Volrath laughed. They saw what we did. They know resistance is pointless. Soon they will come crawling to us, begging for mercy. But deep in his 4 eyes, there was a small shadow of doubt. Silence was strange. Silence was not normal. When you hurt someone, they screamed. They fought back. They did something. Humans were doing nothing. On Earth, Admiral Minji walked through the underground bunker called Site Zero. It was the most secret place in all of human space. Even most Earth leaders did not know it existed. Only 12 people in history had ever been told about Project Hate. Minji was the 13th. The bunker was huge. It stretched for kilometers under the mountains. Thousands of workers moved through its halls. They had been preparing for this moment for 300 years. Admiral, a young lieutenant named Junho, saluted as she approached. He was barely 30 years old, but his eyes were sharp and his mind was sharper. He was the best tactical officer in the fleet. "The council is ready for your briefing." Minji nodded and entered the main conference room. Around the table sat the 12 most powerful humans alive. Presidents, generals, scientists, and leaders from every major nation. They all looked tired. They all looked angry. But most importantly, they all looked ready. 300 years ago, Minji began, humanity discovered we were not alone in the universe. We also discovered that the universe was not a friendly place. Every spacefaring species we found had one thing in common. They used strength to take what they wanted. They conquered the weak. They destroyed anyone who stood in their way. She pressed a button. The wall behind her lit up with images of destroyed worlds. Planets burned to ash. Species wiped out completely. Civilizations that had existed for thousands of years, gone in days. Our ancestors made a decision, Minji continued. They would smile at the galaxy. They would trade. They would be friendly. But behind that smile, they would build something terrible, something that would make sure humanity could never be destroyed. She pressed another button. The images changed. Now they showed ships. Massive ships. Ships bigger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. Hidden in asteroid belts. Hidden behind moons. Hidden in the dark spaces between stars. "This is Project Hate," Minji said. "Our hidden fleet. Our secret army. Our final answer to any species that tries to destroy us." The room was silent. Even these powerful leaders had not known the full scale of what humanity had built. "But that is not all," Minji said. Her voice dropped lower. "We also built something else, something we hoped we would never have to use." The screen changed one more time. It showed a single weapon. It was small, no bigger than a transport shuttle. But the data next to it made everyone in the room stop breathing. "The stellar collapse device," Minji explained. "It can make a star explode. Not just damage it, not just disturb it. Complete supernova. Every planet around that star would be destroyed. Every moon. Every station. Everything." "That is genocide," one of the presidents whispered. "That is the death of an entire species." "Yes," Minji agreed. "That is exactly what it is." She looked around the room. "The Velthari killed 10 million of our people. They broadcast it to make us afraid. They gave us 1 week to surrender. In 3 days, they will attack another colony. Then another. Then another. Until we have nothing left." She slammed her hand on the table. "They started this war. They chose to kill our children, our families, our future. Now we must decide how to end it." Commander Tejo stepped forward. He had arrived at Earth that morning. His eyes were red from crying, but his voice was steady. "I watched my sister die," he said. "I watched her children die." The Velthari laughed while they did it. They enjoyed it. He looked at each leader in turn. "I do not want revenge. Revenge is too small a word. I want the galaxy to understand that humanity is not prey. We are not victims. We are not weak." He pointed at the screen showing the stellar collapse device. "I want the Velthari to feel what we felt. I want them to watch their world burn, just like we watched ours. And I want every species in the galaxy to see it happen." The debate lasted for hours. Some leaders argued against using such a terrible weapon. They said humanity should be better than the Velthari. They said killing billions of innocent aliens would make humans just as evil as their enemies. Others argued that mercy was weakness. The Velthari would never stop attacking. If humanity did not destroy them completely, they would just rebuild and attack again. The only way to be safe was to remove the threat forever. In the end, they voted. It was close. But the final decision was made. Project Hate would launch. The stellar collapse device would be used. The Velthari homeworld would burn. Admiral Minji gave the orders. Across human space, the hidden fleet began to move. Ships that had been sleeping for centuries powered up their engines. Soldiers who had trained their whole lives for this moment put on their armor. Lieutenant Junho worked at his station for 18 hours straight. He calculated the coordinates. He planned the route. He made sure every detail was perfect. There could be no mistakes. One error could mean the death of the mission. "Admiral," he reported finally, "everything is ready. The fleet will draw the Velthari forces away from their homeworld. The device will be delivered by a single ship. Fast and quiet." "Who will fly it?" Minji asked. "We need volunteers," Junho said. "The mission is one way. Whoever goes will not come back." Minji nodded slowly. She had expected this. Some victories required sacrifice. Some justice came with a price. That night, she made the announcement. She told the fleet what they were about to do. She explained the mission. She asked for volunteers. Within 1 hour, 10,000 people had offered to die for humanity. She chose 2. Captain Do-hyun was 40 years old. He had lost his parents in a Velthari raid 20 years ago. He had spent his whole life waiting for this chance. Navigator Hana was 35. She had no family, no ties, nothing to leave behind. She said her only regret was not being able to see the Velthari burn with her own eyes. The night before the mission, Taeho visited them in their quarters. He brought a bottle of Old Earth wine and 3 glasses. "Thank you," he said simply. "For my sister. For her children. For everyone." Do-hyun took a glass. "We are not heroes," he said. "We are just humans doing what needs to be done." Hana smiled. "The Velthari think they know us. They think we are soft. They think we will break." She raised her glass. "Tomorrow, they learn the truth." They drank together in silence. Outside the window, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the Velthari were celebrating their victory. They were planning their next attack. They had no idea what was coming. By morning, the fleet was ready. 10,000 ships, 2 million soldiers, and 1 small vessel carrying the end of an empire. The silence was about to break, and when it did, the galaxy would tremble. The ship was called Dokebi. It was small. It was fast. It was invisible to every sensor the Velthari had ever built, and it carried the death of a civilization in its cargo hold. Captain Do-hyun sat in the pilot seat. His hands rested on the controls. His face was calm, but his heart beat fast. He had dreamed of this moment for 20 years. Since the day he watched his parents die in a Velthari raid, he had known his life would lead here. Navigator Hana sat beside him. She checked the coordinates one final time. The math was perfect. The route was clear. They would reach the Velthari home system in 18 hours. "All systems ready," she reported. "The fleet is moving into position. They will draw enemy forces to the border. We will have a clear path." Do-hyun nodded. He opened a channel to Admiral Minji on Earth. "Admiral," he said, "Dokebi is ready to launch." Minji's face appeared on the screen. She looked older than she had yesterday. The weight of what she was ordering showed in her eyes. "Captain. Navigator. What you are about to do will change everything. The galaxy will remember this day forever." She paused. "I wish I could give you a way to come home. I wish this did not have to be a one-way trip." Do-hyun smiled. "We know what we signed up for, Admiral. This is our choice, our gift to humanity." Hana leaned forward. "Tell them what we did here today. Tell every human child that when our people were threatened, we did not hide. We did not surrender. We fought back." Minji's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed strong. "I will tell them. Every generation will know your names. Now go, and may the stars guide you." The channel closed. Do-hyun looked at Hana. "Ready?" he asked. "I was born ready," she replied. He pushed the throttle forward. The Dokebi shot into space like a bullet from a gun. Behind them, The human fleet spread out across the border of Velthari space. 10,000 ships made no attempt to hide. They wanted the Velthari to see them. They wanted the enemy to panic and send everything they had. The plan worked perfectly. Volrath received the report and laughed. The humans attack? With only 10,000 ships? We have 50,000 in this sector alone. They have lost their minds with grief. Quote, he ordered the Velthari fleet to engage. Ship after ship flew toward the human forces. They expected an easy victory. They expected to crush these foolish primates and teach them another lesson. But the human fleet did not advance. They held their position at the border. They fired their weapons just enough to seem threatening, but not enough to actually attack. What are they doing? Volrath demanded. Why do they not push forward? Perhaps they are afraid, one of his officers suggested. Perhaps they realized their mistake. Volrath's 4 eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. This made no sense. Humans were emotional creatures. They should be charging forward in blind rage. They should be making mistakes. Instead, Sir, another officer called out, we are receiving a transmission. It is from the human ship at the center of their formation. Put it on screen, Volrath ordered. Commander Teho appeared. His face was cold. His eyes burned with hatred. Volrath, Teho said. You killed my sister. You killed 10 million of my people. You thought this would make us surrender. He leaned closer to the camera. You were wrong. The transmission ended. Volrath felt the first real fear he had ever known. He did not understand it. He did not want to admit it. But deep in his gut, he knew something terrible was happening. Meanwhile, the Dokkibi flew through empty space. Hana had plotted a route through regions no one ever used. Dead systems. Empty darkness. Places where no Velthari patrol would ever think to look. 12 hours to target, she announced. Do-hyun ate a small meal and tried to sleep. It was hard. His mind kept showing him memories. His mother's smile. His father's strong hands. The flames that took them both away. He thought about what he was going to do. 9 billion Velthari lived on the planets around their home star. Soldiers. Yes. But also farmers. Workers. Children. They would all die when the star exploded. For a moment, guilt crept into his heart. Was this right? Was killing billions of people, even enemies, the correct response? Then he remembered the broadcast. He remembered the Velthari soldiers laughing as they shot children. He remembered Volrath smiling as he ordered the destruction of an entire colony. The guilt faded. In its place came cold determination. The Velthari had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. Hana did not sleep at all. She watched the sensors. She checked every system. She calculated and recalculated. Nothing could go wrong. This was too important. Why did you volunteer? Do-hyun asked her during the final hours. Hana was quiet for a moment. I grew up alone, she finally said. No family. No real friends. I always felt like I was looking for something. A purpose. A reason to exist. She looked at the cargo hold where the weapon waited. This is my reason. After today, every human who ever lives will be safer because of what we did. That is enough for me. Do-hyun understood. They were not dying for revenge. They were dying for the future. The Velthari home system appeared on their screens. It was beautiful in a terrible way. A bright yellow star surrounded by 17 planets. Cities covered every world. Ships filled every orbit. This was the heart of an empire that had conquered hundreds of species. In a few minutes, it would be ash. Send the message, Do-hyun said. Hana activated the transmitter. They had prepared one final communication for the Velthari. One last thing for them to hear before the end. Do-hyun spoke into the microphone. His voice was steady. People of the Velthari Empire. Your leaders killed 10 million humans and broadcast it to the galaxy. They wanted to show that humanity was weak. They wanted everyone to fear you. He paused. Today, you will learn the truth about humanity. We are not weak. We are not afraid. And when someone hurts our family, we do not forgive. We do not forget. We answer. He looked at Hana. She nodded. You wanted our attention, Do-hyun finished. You have it. He cut the transmission and flew straight toward the Velthari star. Alarms screamed across the Empire. Ships launched from every planet to intercept the tiny human vessel. But they were too slow, too far away. By the time they realized what was happening, the Dokkaebi was already past their defensive lines. Volrath received the message in his command center. His gray face turned pale. One ship? He whispered. They sent one ship? What can one ship possibly? Then his sensors showed him what the Dokkaebi was carrying. His 4 eyes went wide with horror. No, he said, that is impossible. They would not dare. But humans had already dared. Do-hyun flew the Dokkaebi into the corona of the Velthari sun. The heat was incredible. The ship began to melt around them. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Deploy the device, Do-hyun ordered. Hana pressed the button. The stellar collapse device launched from the cargo hold and plunged into the heart of the star. It is done, she said softly. Do-hyun took her hand. Thank you for flying with me. She squeezed his fingers. There is no one else I would rather die with. The star began to pulse. Deep inside, forces that should never exist began to tear it apart. The process would take exactly 8 minutes. Do-hyun closed his eyes and thought of his parents. He hoped they were proud. Hana closed her eyes and smiled. She had finally found her purpose. The Dokkaebi dissolved into fire, and the Velthari star began to die. The galaxy watched in horror. Every species with a telescope turned their sensors toward the Velthari home system. News spread faster than light through quantum communication networks. Billions of aliens stopped what they were doing and looked at their screens. They had all seen the Velthari massacre. They had all watched 10 million humans die. Many had laughed. Many had said that humanity deserved it for refusing to bow to the Empire. Many had believed the Velthari propaganda that humans were weak creatures, barely worth noticing. Now they watched the Velthari star pulse and shake. They watched it grow brighter and brighter. And they understood that everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. On the Velthari homeworld, chaos had taken control. Volrath stood in his command center, surrounded by screaming officers. Alarms blared from every direction. Scientists rushed in with reports that made no sense. The star is destabilizing, the chief scientist shouted. Some kind of device was planted in the core. It is creating a chain reaction that cannot be stopped. Can we escape? Volrath demanded. Can we evacuate the system? The scientist shook his head. There is no time. The supernova will occur in less than 7 minutes. Even our fastest ships cannot escape the blast radius. Volrath felt his legs go weak. This could not be happening. The Velthari Empire was the most powerful force in the galaxy. They had conquered 100 worlds. They had destroyed dozens of species. They could not die like this. Not because of humans. Not because of those pathetic, weak little creatures. Send a message to the humans, he ordered. Tell them we surrender. Tell them we will do anything they want. Tell them to stop this. An officer tried to obey. He opened communication channels and transmitted desperate pleas for mercy. There was no response. The humans had nothing more to say. On Earth, Admiral Minji watched the data streams flowing in from deep space sensors. The Velthari star was now expanding rapidly. Its outer layers were being thrown into space at millions of kilometers per hour. The inner core was collapsing, preparing for the final explosion. She felt no joy. She felt no satisfaction. She only felt tired. Admiral, Lieutenant Junho said quietly, it is almost time. Minji nodded. Connect me to all human channels. I want everyone to see this. The connection was made. Across human space, every screen showed the same image. The dying Velthari star, surrounded by 17 doomed worlds. People of Earth and all human colonies. Minji announced. Watch now. This is what happens when someone attacks our family. This is the price of making humanity an enemy. The star exploded. It was the most violent thing any living being had ever seen. Energy beyond measurement ripped through space. Light brighter than 1 billion suns filled the darkness. A wave of fire and radiation spread outward at incredible speed. The first planet to die was the Velthari homeworld. It had 7 billion people living on it. Cities that had stood for 10,000 years. Art and culture and history accumulated over countless generations. In 1 second, it was all vaporized. The entire planet simply ceased to exist. Then the second planet died. Then the third. Then the fourth. One by one, all 17 worlds were consumed by the supernova. Moons were shattered. Space stations were melted. Ships that tried to flee were caught by the blast wave and torn apart. 9 billion Velthari died in 8 minutes. The entire species. Every man, woman, and child. Every soldier and farmer. Every scientist and artist. Every Velthari that had ever lived on those worlds was gone. Their empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, ended in fire. When it was over, nothing remained but an expanding cloud of hot gas and dust. Where the Velthari home system had been, there was only empty space and radiation. The galaxy was silent. On 100,000 worlds, aliens stared at their screens in shock. They had seen empires fall before. They had seen species decline and fade away. But they had never seen anything like this. Complete extinction, total destruction. A response so powerful that it left nothing behind. Commander Tejo stood on the bridge of his ship at the edge of what had been Velthari space. His officers were quiet around him. Some were crying. Some were praying. Some simply sat and stared at nothing. Tejo felt hollow inside. He had wanted this. He had asked for this. He had watched his sister die and demanded revenge. Now, revenge had been taken. And he did not know how to feel. Was this justice? Was it right to kill 9 billion people because they killed 10 million? The Velthari had been cruel. They had been evil. But surely not every single one of them deserved to die. Yet what choice did humanity have? The Velthari would never have stopped. They would have kept attacking. They would have killed another colony. Then another. Until humanity was extinct. The only way to guarantee survival was complete destruction. Tejo thought of Do-hyun and Hana. They had given their lives to deliver the weapon. They had died in fire so that humanity could live. Were they heroes? Were they murderers? Perhaps they were both. "Sir," an officer said, "we are receiving transmissions from other species. Thousands of them." "What are they saying?" Tejo asked. The officer listened to his earpiece. His face went pale. "They are afraid, sir. They are very, very afraid." Tejo understood. The galaxy had just watched humanity commit genocide on a massive scale. Every alien species was now asking the same question. Could they be next? On Earth, crowds gathered in the streets. Some celebrated. They waved flags and cheered. The monsters who killed their people were dead. Humanity had won, but many others did not celebrate. They knelt and prayed for the souls of the dead. They mourned for the Velthari children who never got a chance to grow up. They wondered if humanity had lost something important in this victory. Admiral Minji gave a speech that night. She stood before cameras and spoke to every human alive. "Today, we defended our species," she said. "We answered an attack on our people with the only response that would guarantee our safety. I do not ask you to celebrate. I do not ask you to be happy. I only ask you to remember." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "Remember that we did not start this war. Remember that the Velthari gave us no choice. And remember that we will never allow anyone to threaten humanity again. We wanted peace. We offered friendship. But when someone declares themselves our enemy, we will show them exactly what that means." The speech ended. Minji walked away from the cameras and returned to her office. She sat alone in the dark for a long time. Across the galaxy, leaders of other species gathered in emergency meetings. They discussed what had happened. They argued about what to do next. Some wanted to attack humanity immediately. They said humans were too dangerous. They said this new power must be destroyed before it destroyed everyone else. Others disagreed. They pointed out that humanity had only acted in self-defense. The Velthari attacked first. The Velthari killed 10 million people on live broadcast. What did they expect would happen? The debate went on for days, but in the end, no one wanted to be the next species to challenge humanity, because now everyone knew the truth. Humans might smile. Humans might trade peacefully. Humans might seem weak and emotional and harmless, but when you hurt them, they would end your entire civilization, and they would make sure the whole galaxy watched. 1 year had passed since the Velthari extinction. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody expected. Old alliances had broken apart. New friendships had formed. Every species looked at humanity differently now. Some with fear, some with respect, some with both. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. It was the first time all spacefaring species had gathered in one place since the war. Leaders from 50 different worlds sat in a massive chamber on the neutral station called Unity Point. Their faces showed tension and uncertainty. Commander Tejo walked into the chamber as humanity's representative. He wore a simple uniform with no medals or decorations. His face was calm. His eyes were clear. He had spent the past year recovering from everything that happened. The nightmares still came sometimes, but they were getting less frequent. Behind him walked Lieutenant Junho, now promoted to commander. And beside them was a new face, a young woman named Unji, who served as humanity's diplomatic advisor. She had been chosen because she understood something important. Winning a war was easy compared to winning a peace. The chamber fell silent as Tejo took his place at the speaker's platform. Dozens of alien eyes watched him. Some were hostile. Some were curious. All were afraid. "Thank you for receiving us," Tejo began. His voice was soft but carried clearly through the room. "I know many of you did not want this meeting. I know some of you wanted to declare war on humanity instead. I understand your fear. After what we did, you have every right to be afraid." He paused and looked around the chamber. But fear is not a foundation for peace. So today, I want to tell you the truth about humanity. Not the propaganda, not the rumors, the truth. He took a deep breath. We never wanted to be warriors. For most of our history, we fought each other. We killed each other. We did terrible things to our own people. When we finally reached the stars, we hoped things would be different. We hoped we could leave our violent past behind. A bitter smile crossed his face. We were naive. The galaxy taught us that peace is not given. It must be earned. It must be defended. So we prepared. We built weapons we hoped we would never use. We trained soldiers we hoped would never fight. And when the Velthari attacked, we used everything we had built. He looked at the empty seat where the Velthari representative used to sit. I will not apologize for what we did. The Velthari killed 10 million of my people. They broadcast it to humiliate us. They planned to do it again and again, until we were extinct. We had no choice but to respond. His voice grew harder. But I will tell you this. We did not enjoy it. There is no celebration on Earth. There are no monuments to our victory. We remember that day with sadness. We mourn the Velthari children who died because of their leader's cruelty. We are not proud of what we had to do. Commander Junho stepped forward with a datapad. Tejo took it and held it up. This contains our proposal for the future. We call it the Hayun Accords, named after the colony where 10 million of our people died. The proposal is simple. Islam. He read from the document. First, there will be no more wars of extinction. Any species that attempts to completely destroy another will face the combined response of all other species. This includes humanity. If we ever attack without justification, you have the right to unite against us. Murmurs spread through the chamber. This was unexpected. Humanity was putting limits on its own power. Second, all conflicts must go through this council first. Diplomacy before weapons. Talk before war. If a species refuses to negotiate, Then and only then can military action be considered. Tejo lowered the data pad. Third, and most importantly, we propose sharing our defensive technology with every species in this chamber. Not our weapons of destruction. Our shields. Our sensors. Our warning systems. Every world should be able to protect itself. The alien leaders looked at each other in confusion. Humanity had just proven they had the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. Now they wanted to share their defenses? It made no sense. An insect-like creature called Ambassador Crix rose to speak. His species, the Tholani, had been conquered by the Velthari centuries ago. Commander Tejo, Crix said, his voice clicking and buzzing. My people suffered under Velthari rule for 300 years. We celebrated when you destroyed them. But now I must ask, why should we trust you? What stops humanity from becoming the new Velthari? Tejo nodded. It was a fair question. Nothing stops us, he admitted. We have the power to do whatever we want. We could conquer this galaxy if we chose. We could force every species to serve us. He shook his head. But that is not who we are. We did not come to the stars to build an empire. We came to find friends. We came to learn. We came to share our music and our stories and our dreams. He gestured to Yunji. She stepped forward and activated a holographic display. Images filled the chamber. Human children playing in parks. Artists painting beautiful pictures. Scientists making discoveries. Families sharing meals together. This is humanity. Tejo said. We are not warriors at heart. We are parents and teachers and builders. We create things. We love things. We protect things. The weapons we used against the Velthari were built out of fear, not ambition. We never wanted to be destroyers. Unji spoke for the first time. Her voice was gentle, but confident. We know that actions speak louder than words. So we offer proof of our intentions. Starting today, humanity will reduce its military presence by half. We will close our secret bases. We will reveal the full extent of Project Hate so that nothing is hidden. She smiled. We will keep enough strength to defend ourselves. We are not foolish. But we will not threaten anyone who does not threaten us first. This is our promise. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species argued this was a trick. Others said it was too generous. Others pointed out that humanity had just killed 9 billion people and should not be trusted regardless of promises. But slowly, opinions began to shift. The Tholani had suffered more than anyone under Velthari rule. Ambassador Crix conferred with his delegation for a long time. Finally, he rose again. My people have discussed your proposal, Crix announced. We believe you are sincere. The Velthari would never have offered to limit their power. The fact that humanity makes this offer proves you are different. He made a gesture that meant agreement in his culture. The Tholani support the Hayun Accords. We will sign. One by one, other species followed. Not all of them. Some refused and walked out. But most stayed. Most signed. Most chose to believe that the galaxy could be different now. When the ceremony was complete, Tejo stood alone by a window overlooking the stars. Junho found him there. We did it, Junho said. 50 species signed. This is a new era. Tejo was quiet for a moment. I keep thinking about Do-hyun and Hana, he finally said. They gave their lives to deliver that weapon. They died believing they were protecting humanity. They were right, Junho replied. Were they? Tejo turned to face his friend. We killed 9 billion people. Children, Junho. We killed children who had never done anything wrong. Junho had no easy answer. Nobody did. We cannot change the past, he said carefully. But we can build a better future. That is what today was about. Making sure no one ever has to make the choice we made. Tejo looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, where the Velthari system used to be, there was now only empty space. A monument to the terrible price of war. My sister Yuna used to say that the measure of a person is not the mistakes they make, Tejo said softly. It is what they do afterward. He straightened his shoulders, and turned toward the future. We made a terrible mistake when we let ourselves be caught unprepared. The Velthari made a terrible mistake when they attacked us. Now we must all do better. He walked back toward the chamber where humanity's new allies waited. No more massacres, he said. No more extinctions. No more children dying for their leader's pride. That is the new order. And we will defend it with everything we have. Behind him, the stars continued to shine, cold and distant and eternal. They had seen empires rise and fall for billions of years. They would see many more, but now humanity stood among them, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as guardians of a peace built on the ashes of war. And the galaxy, finally, understood what it meant to be human.